Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's SIIA Tech Chats. I am delighted to be joined today by Aaron Harris, CTO of Intacct. Intacct provides cloud ERP software, which can be tailored to each customer's workflow and reporting requirements. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's been a while since we spoke. I have to start by saying congratulations on the acquisition. You recently announced you're being acquired by Sage Group.
That's right.
I was hoping maybe you could just share a little bit about what that means for Intacct today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is huge news for us. There's a group of us who have been doing this here at Intacct for a while now. We've sort of lost track of time a little bit. But what we're really excited about is the opportunity to put Intacct on a much bigger stage, than it has been before. We feel like we've been very successful taking Intacct to market, here in North America. We've got a pretty good group of industries that we've been able to be successful selling the product to. But now with the global resources of Sage, with their massive distribution channel, with the resources they have, not just here in North America, but across the world, we're just excited to take this thing to the next level and see it be really successful globally.
That's fantastic. Now you mentioned you've been with Intacct a while. In fact, you've led the product vision and technology direction since its inception. Can you talk about that journey from startup, launching the company, to now the acquisition? Like, what has surprised you most along the way?
Yeah, sure. Lots of surprises, lots of great stories. We could talk about this for a while. We started the company in late 1999, and we actually got our first round of funding the day that the market crashed in the Silicon Valley, when we had the big bubble back in 2000. And I feel like Intacct has been kind of a representative story of Silicon Valley itself. We've shared in the ups and downs of Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of great stories that are going to come out of the Intacct journey. And I think the biggest one for sure is going to be perseverance. Just the fact that when we started this company, we thought that in 2 or 3 years, cloud was going to take over the world. We thought that everybody was going to be jumping onto the internet to use internet-based accounting. And of course, that didn't happen. And, we really had to be persistent and perseverant and work on this for a long time. And along the way, there were several things that we felt were important to our strategy, but we didn't necessarily anticipate just how big they would be in terms of changing the way people do accounting. I'll give you a couple examples. The first one is dimensions. We introduced dimensions into the product not quite 10 years ago. We did it believing that it was going to have a big impact on the way people use the system. We didn't anticipate fully just the radical transformation it was going to cause in the way people think about using the system, from the budgeting process through the controls processes, workflows, all the way through to reporting. It really fundamentally changed the way people thought about the implementation and using the accounting product. Just we're very surprised by that in a positive way. The other decision that we made very early on that we felt was important, but we just really didn't recognize how important it would be, was the introduction of web services APIs for integrations. We knew that we wanted to, with the advent of the cloud, focus more on ecosystems, more on best in class. And so we wanted to use those web services to build partnerships with companies like Salesforce. What we didn't fully grasp was just how important that would be for all of our customers, and bringing in sometimes dozens of applications that together are helping them to run their businesses successfully. So there's obviously been lots of surprises on the way, but for me, and of course in my role as the CTO, the most exciting thing has been seeing some of these innovations that we felt would be we felt would affect some changes in the way people do things, but not really realizing just how big those changes would be.
Yeah, well, they've had a big impact, and your perseverance has certainly paid off as well. I want to talk a little bit about ERP software. You serve a lot of industries, and given that organizations, are unique to their business models and the industries that they serve, how important is it for, a financial application to be flexible? And what advice would you give companies looking for the perfect solution besides simply choosing Intacct, which I know is good advice, but
Yeah.
what advice would you give?
Well, so the one thing you don't want to do when you're building a product like Intacct is pigeonhole yourself into one industry. And so there's kind of a balancing act you have to play. So the philosophy we have here at Intacct is you have to market, sell, service, support, implement in a very vertical way. If I'm selling to a technology company, the way that I market the product all the way through to the way I implement that product has to be very vertical. It has to be very unique to the needs and the requirements and the language of that industry. And that's going to be very different from selling to somebody who's in retail. However, the product itself, you have to have this longer vision that it's going to be useful across a wide range of industries. And so the way we approach that when we build the product is to rely really, really heavily on configuration. So, when there's an industry requirement for, the treatment of some accounting rule, or if there's a work process that's unique to some industry, when we build the product, we always take a step back and we say, okay, how can we build that in a way that is going to be, widely usable, that customers will be able to implement it via configuration to make it work exactly the way they need it to work for their industry. And what we've really always harped on is this idea that the accounting organization should be able to control the way the product works for them and their industry via configuration. And it shouldn't require scripting. But on the other hand, we want to provide this ecosystem of partners the ability to use a platform with developer tools, with scripting languages, with APIs, the ability to go into all these industries and add to the Intacct platform unique capabilities that work just in those industries. Whether it's investor accounting if you're in real estate investment, it could be revenue management for Hollywood production companies who have some really unique requirements there. So as a buyer, I think what you want to see is the ability to make the product work for you in not just your industry, but it's unique for your company via configuration. But you also want to see that there's a rich ecosystem of partners that have the ability to come in with best-in-class solutions that are tailored specifically for the industry that I work in.
Absolutely. Now, the CFO role, let's talk a little bit about that before I let you go. That role has become more strategic today than ever before. Before, it was simply accounting, but now the CFO is looked at to play that more strategic role for the executive team. How can automating the financial processes help them really transform into more of a strategic partner amongst the exec team?
Yep. So our position is that CFOs are spending, in their organizations are spending way too much time simply getting to a point where they can look at the past. When you think about audits, you think about, periodic financial closes, and you think about, the traditional support that ERP systems provided for reporting. It was all about, producing information that was historical, and that it was always delayed. There was always this latency between the time that you actually finished an accounting period and the time you got meaningful information. And our belief is that if we can get the CFOs out of that work and organizations out of that work of the monthly closes that are so tedious, make the audits less costly. If we can provide more automation in the routine activities, that's going to free them up to be more of a strategic advisor to the organization. And this is a little bit provocative, but at Intacct we have a really simple strategy for doing that. And there's three pieces to this. So we don't just want to shorten the financial close. We want to eliminate it. Our goal in the future is for there to be no financial close. We want the books to always be ready to produce meaningful information. The second thing we want to do is we want to transform audit from something that's periodic and it's after the fact, and it's just a sample of transactions and processes, to something that systems do continuously, on your behalf. So using machine learning and artificial intelligence, we believe that we can continuously audit the system and we can flag things that need to be reviewed far before they become a problem. So such that, when you have the third party come in to do that attestation, it's a much different process than it is today. And then finally, we want to give CFOs embedded analytics within the accounting product, within the ERP, that allows them to look to the future, right? That combines big data, that combines all of the information we're gathering, not just financial results, but non-financial results, related information. And yeah, they're turning around, and they're looking to the future, and we're giving them tools to predict outcomes and to look for opportunities and to see problems before they happen, enabling them to be that strategic advisor to the organization.
That's fantastic. I think all of that will have amazing impact on the CFO role and the financial team as well. Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. For more information on Intacct and Sage Group, you can visit their websites, and stay tuned next week for SIIA Tech Chats.